is part of a global conversation that takes place every day in every corner. Welcome to something special. Welcome to TEDx. This TEDx event is part of a global conversation that takes place every day in every corner of the world. In schools, in theaters, in workplaces, even in prisons, people gather to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. More than 3,000 TEDx events are held every year in 170 countries. It's a remarkable thing. TEDx events are self-organized under a license from TED, a non-profit organization devoted to discovering and sharing powerful ideas in the form of TED Talks. It's not TED itself, but your local TEDx team of volunteers that has done all the work to put on today's event, including booking all of the speakers. It's this team's ideas, dedication, and time that have made this possible. We really hope today's program sparks an exciting conversation. This is a day for curiosity and for skepticism, for inspiration and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you will take out. And now, on with the show.
Defining moments arise in our life every single day. Those moments can lead you to very different stories. But whatever you choose, you will become more than you can possibly imagine. Our mission as a school is to unleash your full potential through world-class knowledge and a strong network, united by a unique collaborative spirit, empowering you to shape a more sustainable world. Our mission is to redefine your success by seeking the best version of yourself. Our mission is to empower knowledge beyond borders. Our mission is with you, and together we will create the best duo the world will ever see. Our mission is to inspire you, and together empower you to achieve greatness.
Welcome to this year's edition of TEDxCatólica Lisbon. The years of 2020 and 2021 were marked in history due to the challenges that were present to us. Great Gandhi once said, "Life is unpredictable and you never know what is coming next. Don't ever get too comfortable and always be ready for change." At TEDx, we prefer to look at the challenges as times of breakthrough, growth, and innovation, for which we've chosen the motto "Go Beyond and Make It Happen" for this year's edition of the event. Let's enjoy the show now.
Welcome to something.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the 2021 edition of TEDx at Católica Lisbon School of Business and Economics. I'm André Pinho, and it's a great pleasure to host you once again this year in what promises to be a super insightful event with amazing speakers that will encourage you to deep dive into topics such as careers, medicine, personal limits, entrepreneurship, women biology, the performing arts, among many, many others. It is the purpose of these talks that you feel challenged, that you adopt another point of view on a topic that you were always sure about, that you learn from the experience of others, and that you feel inspired. Inspired enough that you're driven to one day have a story of your own to tell, maybe at another edition of these TEDx, who knows. What you'll see today is the result of the hard work and dedication of an amazing team of 13. Our lead organizing, Reza Sidiki, our event management team with Amélie Brandt, Pedro Cruz, Astrid Almeida, and João Rebelo, our marketing team with Moritz Dressler, Elise Simonot, Felix Einhold, and Nadia Bungas, and our speakers and sponsors team with Aline Kaufmann, João Caseiro, Ana Maria Schletta, and Cristina Schmitz. Feel free to check out more information on the event's Instagram page, TEDxCatólicaLisbonSBE, no spaces. Everyone here at TEDx Católica Lisbon had a great time getting to know our speakers, and we hope that you take at least as much from the experience as we did. Now, without further ado, allow me to introduce our first amazing speaker for the event, Stijn Spaz. Stijn was born in Belgium, but is really a citizen of the world, having resided, for example, in Los Angeles and Honolulu, which he calls home today. He was challenged to recount his experience and lessons learned in how he landed his dream job and how going the extra mile contributed to this. Enjoy his talk.
7.9 billion people in the world. Why are you the right person for the job? There are other candidates with the same degree, the same experience, the same background. We all like to call ourselves passionate and team players. So why should you be hired? The TEDx team kindly asked me to share the story of how I landed my dream job and how the theme of this conference, Going Beyond, might help you do the same. I grew up in a fairly small but beautiful city in Belgium called Hasselt. I was an average student, and it wasn't until my second year of college that I realized that going beyond can really change your life. I'll tell you how that happened too. It happened in the second year of college when we had this course called event management. The only thing that we had to do for this course was organize an event. It didn't matter what type of event it was. It didn't matter whether or not it was profitable. We just had to organize an event. It had to take place in April or May, and we would have weekly feedback moments with our professors. So all of us started organizing a variety of different events. And I wanted to organize this international marketing conference in Belgium. I wanted to bring some of the best speakers from all over the world to come to Belgium and inspire hundreds of marketers and entrepreneurs in a church. Why a church? Because I believe that there was no better marketing example than religion. No offense to religion. I just thought that was always very impressive how religion was able to inspire and move billions of people around the world. And so we wanted to do that at the church. And I found two people actually that were crazy enough to organize this with me. The first speaker that we wanted to dream very high because as Carlos Brito once said during a speech, if you set the bar high, you'll actually jump higher, right? No one will ever jump this high, even if they can, if the bar is set here. So you always got to keep, moving up the bar in order to actually see how high you can jump. So we're like, you know what? We're going to set the bar high right from the start. And one of the speakers that we really wanted was Kevin Roberts. He was a CEO worldwide of Saatchi & Saatchi, which is one of the largest advertising agencies in the world. And we wanted him to come and speak at our event in Belgium, but obviously, as we didn't have any budget, we realized that he wasn't going to come to Belgium if we just send him an email. So we went to the church, we recorded a video in which I invited him to come and speak at our event. We put the video on a USB key in the shape of a key because we thought he was the key to success. Super cheesy, I know, but we put the key in a booklet that explained the event, and again invited him to come and speak. And we wanted to get the booklet to him via the 6 degrees of separation. 6 degrees of separation is really just a theory that says that you can reach anyone, anywhere in the world through 5 connections, basically. So we know someone who might know someone who might know someone, etc. Kevin Roberts. Now we also realized that this booklet had to travel across the Atlantic Ocean as Kevin Roberts was living in New York at the time. And so we had to speed up that process somehow as we only had a few months to organize this event. So what we ended up doing was creating 3 of these booklets in 3 different colors, giving them to 3 different people, telling each of those people that the first color who would arrive in Kevin Roberts' hands, or the first color that would arrive in Kevin Roberts' hands, would give free access to the 5 people who passed on the booklet to our event. So 2 of the booklets we gave to our 2 professors to get them more involved and engaged, and 1 of the booklets we gave to a partner that we convinced to work with us. Now the 3 booklets leave. 1 month later, no response. 2 months later, no response. And so at that point, we could have given up, but Steven Spielberg got rejected for film school three times. He kept going, so we kept going too. We just had to figure out a different way. And so we actually went the simple way this time. We went to the Saatchi & Saatchi website, to the contact web page. Really just a basic page where you even have to prove that you're not a robot by indicating how many traffic signs you can see on the picture. But at least we had a story now. And so we wrote the story of what we tried to reach him. And the same freaking day we get a response. Not just some automatic reply or some assistant responding to us. No. They printed our email. They put it on his desk. He wrote with a pen his response on the letter. They scanned it in and sent it back to us. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe he actually got back to us. So he was saying, hey, Stijn, I can feel your optimism and enthusiasm throbbing. I haven't been in New York City for a few weeks, so I don't even know if your booklets have arrived, but I love the concept. I'd be honored to come and speak at your event, but unfortunately I'm committed in Cape Town on May 28, which was the date that we suggested. So I get this email, and I'm like, all right, we cannot give up on this. So I send him an email back. I say, hey, Mr. Roberts, we want you to speak at our event so badly that we're willing to reschedule the entire event to a date that is convenient for you. We suggested 6 other dates, send the email off, and 3 days later he gets back to us again. He said, hey Stijn, I know it's really hard to believe, but I really can't make it. And he even attached his itinerary with the stuff that he had to do on those 6 dates. Now, he's the CEO of a company with over 140 offices all over the world. Obviously, I understood that he was busy. So no need for that itinerary, but still, I really appreciate it. And the fact that he kept getting back to me made me want to continue to engage with him. So I sent him an email back. I said, hey, Kev. No, I said, hey, Mr. Roberts, how about you create a video for us that we can partly show to promote the event and get people to come to the church, and partly we use it the day of the event so that we still have you as a virtual speaker. Send off the email. I didn't expect anything, but I also didn't have to lose anything. So I just send it off. And a week later, we get an email back from Kevin Roberts, and he starts the video. He attached a video to the email, actually. And he starts the video with saying, hi, my name is Kevin Roberts, CEO worldwide of Saatchi & Saatchi. Marketing Inspiration, which was the name of the event. There's nothing I believe in more. And he went on to give his 10-minute speech. And we received that video. We go to our professors. We show it. They're excited. We're excited. But then we all realize that we still have to find some actual speakers that would show up at our event, of course. So I go on YouTube. And on YouTube, I find this guy named Sasha Strauss. He was the CEO of Innovation Protocol, which is a strategic brand consulting firm in Los Angeles. And I watched a 45-minute speech on YouTube from him. And after watching that video, I told myself, wow, not only do I want this guy to speak at our event, but I want to work for this guy. And I'm going to do everything possible to make that happen. So I get in touch with his office. I explain the entire event on the phone. His assistant is like, oh, wow, that's a great concept. We love the event. He's actually still available on the date that you mentioned. I was like, oh my God, great. Just block his calendar already. They're like, okay, we're willing to do that. I hope you realize that there's this decent 5-figure speaking fee attached to him coming to Belgium. And for whatever reason, I'm on the phone and I say, you know what? Give me a few weeks. I'm going to try to make this happen. And so I hang up the phone, and for the next few weeks, I did nothing else but trying to find sponsors to get Sasha to come to Belgium. As we're doing that, one of the students that was co-organizing the project went to move on to another project because it was just so time-consuming, which I totally understand. My friends would call me. They would say, hey, can we go to the bar? Do you want to catch up over a drink? And I'd be like, sorry, I'm like trying to get the speaker to come to Belgium. And so for weeks and weeks and weeks, I would get on the train to Brussels, meet up with banks and other big companies that would have money and align with the values of our event. And some of those meetings I would walk out of with 10,000 euro sponsor contracts. And so after a few weeks, I was able to call Sasha's assistant back and say, hey, we're going to make this happen. We're ready to do this. So the assistant, kind of confused, wow, I didn't even think actually that you were going to call back, but great, we're super excited. So Sasha would obviously arrive the day before the event. He would be there the day off the event and then leave again the day after the event. I was like, great, thank you so much. I hang up the phone, and then I realized I actually had to arrange an internship for next semester. So I call his assistant back and I say, hey, would you mind telling me what Mr. Strauss's favorite food is, what his favorite car is, what his favorite hotel is, what his favorite music is? And I explained why I wanted to know all of that. And so when Sasha was going to come to Belgium, I was going to be way too busy organizing the event. So I asked one of my buddies to be the roadie who would drive him around for 3 days. Now, we both didn't have a fancy car, so I went to a local car dealer, convinced him to give us an Audi A7 to drive him around for 3 days. I gave my buddy a schedule for like the 3 days with everything that he had to do. So he would pick him up at the airport. Sasha would get in the car. His favorite music would start playing. We knew that he usually didn't really have a chance to like visit the cities that he would travel to for work. So we did an entire city trip with him in Brussels. We couldn't really compete with all of the fancy hotels that he usually stayed at. So we found this cool urban loft in Hasselt. But we even embroidered hotel slippers with his name on. And on Instagram, I found the name of his dog. So we embroidered an extra slipper with the name of his dog so he could take them home and his dog could run away with his slippers. Anyway, we went completely above and beyond because I wanted to give him an experience that he would never forget. And the second day, Sasha gives his speech, and he absolutely blows the crowd away. He was worth every single dollar. And after his speech, we have this small press conference, and one of the photographers asked us to go on a picture together. And it's like one of those classic business pictures, right, where you have to keep shaking hands. And as we're shaking hands, I'm just making this stupid joke saying, hey, Sasha, it looks like you're hiring me. And he's like, dude, I am. And I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, I mean, the fact that you pulled off this conference and your buddy, the roadie, told me all about you. I would love for you to do your internship at my firm. And I was like, oh, wow. And so we stayed in touch. A few months later, I did my first internship at Innovation Protocol in Los Angeles. I tried to work my butt off to get a job there and actually asked them if that was possible. They told me that tried to apply for a visa for immigrants in the past, but it was really hard. So unfortunately, they weren't willing to do that. But I had to go back to Belgium. I did another internship in France. 6 months later, I graduated. I started applying for random jobs, didn't really know what to do. And at that point, I saw one of my coworkers of Innovation Protocol in Los Angeles posting on Facebook that they had open positions. And after all that, I thought to myself, you know what? Nothing is impossible after all this. I just have to go for it. I have to try again. And I knew I could try again, but I couldn't just try again. I had to go beyond. So what I did was I created this video overnight where I filmed myself competing. It was right during the presidential elections, and I competed with the presidential candidates, but then I ended up just wanting to work for Innovation Protocol. I created a video and I sent it to Los Angeles in the middle of the night in Belgium, so it arrived there in the middle of the day. And I didn't just send it to Sasha or HR, I sent it to the entire company. I wanted it to pop up on every screen. I wanted people to start talking about it and advocate for me. And within 5 minutes that they possibly could have watched the video, I get an email back from the general manager saying, oh my God, are you serious about this? It was in all caps, that's why I'm shouting, by the way. And I was like, hell yeah. And so we started looking into visa options. And at first it actually seemed very hard. As a matter of fact, they told me, like, we're very excited, but it just doesn't seem feasible. We've been in touch with attorneys, etc. And so I took it up on myself and I kept calling people and kept meeting with people. And I ended up meeting up with someone that actually met at the church during the event that we organized. And he was on the board of the Belgian American Chamber of Commerce. And he was able to help us with a visa for 1 year. So I pitched that idea to Innovation Protocol. Innovation Protocol told me, well, sorry, we can't really hire you as a strategist if it's just for 1 year because, it might take up to 9 months before you actually can start creating value for the company. So I pitched them, then what if I do business development? What if I do sales for you guys so I can create value sooner? And so they actually created a new role for me in which I could do business development for that amount of time. And so in the first few months, I really tried to prove myself. And after 4 months of working at Innovation Protocol, they were willing to apply for another visa, for a more longer term visa for me, which we didn't hear until the end of the year of my first visa that it actually got denied. So then we only had one more option, which was this one other visa for which I either had to win a Nobel Prize or fulfill 3 out of 9 requirements. And unfortunately, I hadn't won a Nobel Prize yet. I still haven't, by the way. But I looked at the 9 requirements, and the requirements such as getting articles published, having articles published about me. And I looked at the 9 requirements and I was like, you know what? If I go all in, if I go beyond, this might actually work out. And so for 9 months, I did nothing else but trying to become an expert in the brand strategy field, got published in specific magazines and articles. And after 9 months, we got the visa and I ended up going back to Innovation Protocol. And so I went back to Innovation Protocol. I worked there for a total of 5 years, 5 absolutely incredible and amazing years. I learned so much. We traveled the world together, consulting and speaking. And there was actually one trip that I will never forget. It was a trip with Sasha to Australia. We got to do a number of workshops there with a range of different clients. And at the end of the trip, I posted this picture of the 2 of us on Instagram. And in the caption, I thanked him for all of the opportunities that he had given me and how grateful I was to work with him. And the day after, he posted in the comments saying, "You get what you give, and you give a lot." And that comment to me forever is a reminder that if you put yourself out there, if you go all in, if you set the bar high, if you constantly try to exceed expectations, opportunities will come your way. And so another opportunity actually ended up coming my way, which Sasha actually ended up being very supportive of. It was an opportunity where I now got to create dream jobs for an iconic Hawaiian company. And so I started doing that, and the lessons from this story aren't really rocket science. As a matter of fact, sometimes all it takes is hearing a story like this to get started, because that's the hardest part to get started. And so what I really would love for you to remember from this talk is that next time you want to apply for your dream job, just realize that there's more than putting passionate or team player on your resume. Just realize that you too can go beyond. Thank you very much.
Our next amazing speakers are Pedro and Miguel Ferreira Pinto. The
people in the world. Why are you the right person for?
Our next amazing speakers are Pedro and Miguel Ferreira Pinto, the Portuguese brothers known as Iron Brothers. With the life motto, "In life, there are no limits, only barriers, and everyone can do whatever they set their sights on." The Iron Brothers are the first special team that dare to do the most extreme race in the world, the Ironman, to raise awareness for the barriers that people with cerebral palsy face in life in general, but with a special attention to sports. Together, they've completed several 10-kilometer races, some half marathons, 1 marathon, 1 half Ironman, and 1 Ironman. Enjoy their talk.
Before we start, we want you to remember one sentence. In life, there is nothing impossible. There are barriers in the path, what you may want to accomplish, but no impossibles. And barriers were made to be thrown down. When we were contacted to speak at a TED event with the motto, "Go Beyond," we immediately remembered our most recent race where we dug deep and went beyond Pedro's disability. It was the most obvious moment to talk about. But then we thought, nah, that's not what we went beyond. We were never like that. We grew making fun of each other. Disability was never a theme for us. Pedro always made fun of my grades and jackass ideas, and I always made fun of his attempts to use his disability as a way not to do things he did not want to do. Just doing something per se, as amazing as it could be, it was not where we really went beyond. So where did we go beyond that we got someone to think of us to speak at such an event, and that speaks for what we do? So let us tell you a story that will make you understand why racing together by itself is not a big deal. Let us explain where we really went beyond. Back in 2018, I was preparing one of those early adult life crisis race, half Ironman in Portugal. It seemed like a badass idea with so much bragging rights that I could just climb one more step and I would be amongst the gods, even wear colorful spandex. One day, just 1.5 months away from that race, we were having a brothers' dinner talking about random things, and I felt my phone buzz in my pocket. It was a friend of mine sending me a video saying that, "You have to see this, I've seen it, and it's really just like you and Pedro." I was thinking what it could be. It was a video of two brothers getting a slot to race the Ironman World Championship in Hawaii, where one brother had cerebral palsy and they were racing double the distance. I was thinking to be amazing to race alone. Pedro was at my right side and watched the video with me. After some tears, I noticed the expression in his eyes. He was looking at me with his usual expression of, "Let's do it. Oh no, do not even think about that. You are mental." Can you imagine how terrified I was, not even knowing if I could swim 1.9 kilometers, bike 19 kilometers, and run 21 kilometers by myself, let alone carrying Pedro? Guess what? 15 days after that race, we were jumping into the water to race our first sprint distance triathlon. But do you know why he wanted to do it? It was not because he wanted to overcome his disability, not because he wanted to make me suffer for several hours while making fun of me, but because he immediately acknowledged that he could have a voice while doing such crazy races. That, and to make fun of me almost dying during the course, of course. We paid the race fees, I got a coach, Pedro reinforced his workout routines, and started preparing for the challenge of our lives. Then, in 2019, the moment came. The sun was coming up. Thousands of people on that beach apparently feeling like they were embarking into Normandy. Epic songs on the speakers, and then entertainers screaming in apotheosis, and us nervous like crazy, not knowing what would expect us. The cannon shot its ball, and off we went, swimming amongst the masses and fighting our way through the bodies of those athletes at the back of the race. It was glorious, glorious, and I could hear Pedro pushing me inside the water. He was screaming so much that it almost seemed that he was in the water with me. Each stroke was mine and his. Each meter conquered was pure teamwork. Don't doubt that. We got off the sea in around 40 minutes and ran up the swim exit ramp to get out to our bike. The crowd was screaming like we were part of the pro field that was racing alongside the rest of us amateurs. Each of those 900 meters seemed like the world was ours. It's the only way to explain it. We quickly mounted the bike, made our way to the roads, made our way to Cascais shore, and that's when I thought, oh, the wind is not gonna make this easy for us. Not today. For those of you that know what it is to be on the Portuguese coastline in windy days, you know the feeling. For those who don't, it's like hang on to what you can. It's that much windy. We fought and fought and fought, and while I pedaled like a maniac, Pedro kept pushing me and reminding me of happy moments we lived together to try to get my head out of the pain. It made sense, it was useful. We knew we had to get to the hardest climb of the race, with an average pace of 24 kilometers per hour to compensate for those climbing kilometers. Otherwise, it would not be enough. And it was not enough. We missed the intermediate bike cutoff time by just 2 minutes. Pedro was heartbroken, and I was feeling I had failed him. There was no other way to put it. In a tough silence, we finished the bike part of the race, devastated. It was the first time that we fell during the race. But guess what? We were not finished. There was still food to be eaten on the run course. So we finished the bike and went on to the half marathon that separated us from being sorry in life to not picking us back up. when we were thrown down and we were told that we could. At first, I was not happy with the decision. I was too focused on the failure part, but Pedro was lovingly cheering along the way. And then Pedro asked me, just run a little bit, just a little bit for me. It was sad. We pushed mile after mile after mile, eating whatever we could to justify the price paid to race. It's a 300 euros race after all. We had a lot to compensate food-wise. One lap done, and we only had 4 more hills to beat before turning to the finish line. Oh, if we fought those hills, we really fought them. Pedro was still making fun of me, I was still looking like a crazy man running for his life, and our friends and family were trying to push us to run faster to go to lunch. We were back in the race. But then, 500 meters before the finish line, a race referee stopped us. It was clear that he did not want to be there, but he had to. He was told to. In a sensible and heartbroken way, he told us that we had 2 options. Number 1 was to run to the finish line against the rules and maybe never race an Ironman again. Number 2, finish the race there and call it a day. During those 30 seconds, I thought about running and not caring for anything. We fought enough to deserve it after all. Pedro was looking at me, giving me the look that no matter what, he was okay with what I decided. Me, the guy that agreed to do crazy stuff like a triathlon. It's not very wise, but who cares? That's when we fell again, the second time. But you know that crazy people tend to live in groups, right? So guess what? We have crazy friends that have crazy ideas and ask the referee, what if they run to the finish line, but before entering the finishing carpet, they turn to the left and finish besides the line and not through the Ironman gate? The referee could not say no. He simply had no arguments. So we got back up again, assumed our racing stance, put the game face back on, and in an emotional state we ran those final meters to the side of the line, followed by our friends, screaming like mad people down Cascais Bayside ramp. Our family raced us to the stopping point where a corridor of people from Pedro's school and our friends was formed. It was like a guard of honor receiving us and acknowledging that Pedro represents them, like he was their voice, and they were proud as hell for him. So it was a win for us. In a bittersweet way, we celebrated those hard-earned miles. That moment could have defined us. It could have been that moment when we've said, it's okay to fail, but this is it, and we went on with our lives. But we didn't. We went beyond, trained more, bought more chairs, and started giving more and more people with cerebral palsy these opportunities to race and to fight for the inclusion of people that have a disability but do not want to be the Michael Phelps of the disabled, but rather just race for the fun of it. We went beyond and did not let that moment in 2019 define us. We fought harder and finished not only on half Ironman, but a full distance Ironman race this year, making us the first duo to ever finish an Ironman distance race in Europe. I do this mostly because of Pedro, but Pedro does this for a much, much higher purpose. He does this so that he can speak for the great people of Portugal that live with a disability and are left on the sideline without anyone fighting for them. This is where we really go beyond, by not allowing something to be presented to us as an impossible thing, but rather as a barrier that needed to be thrown down. As we've said when we started this, there are barriers in life, but no impossibles, and barriers were made to be thrown down. Inclusion has lots of barriers, some from the disability itself, some from the society, but with time they will all fall. And we are here to make it a reality. So, thank you.
Our next amazing speaker is Denise Amélia Matsule, a Mozambican 25-year-old medical doctor, changemaker, and social activist with a focus on menstrual health and education. Denise takes her calling to heart, making it a driving force to ensure every individual is in good health and thus able to reach his or her full potential. She was challenged to address a topic that is often regarded as awkward and thus often not addressed properly: menstruation. Enjoy her talk.
Let's talk about periods. Was that a rude entrance? An awkward topic? Or maybe we shouldn't talk about it right now. More than half of the world's population is female, and I still wonder, why isn't it considered normal to talk about periods? And why isn't it a basic human right to have access to menstrual products free of charge? Let me tell you a story. It all started when I was 12 years old. I remember I was at home when I first felt my underwear damp. I ran to the toilet, and there it was, a dark red robot stain. Yes, I got my first period. I was so excited about it that I immediately announced this grand news to my friends. I had to let them know that I was part at last of the group of girls who menstruated. But then I had another challenge. Besides telling my friends, I had to tell this news to the other menstruators in the house, my mother and my sister. So as soon as they got back home from work, I immediately shoved on my underwear and showed it to them. My sister immediately lifted me off the floor and congratulated me. But my mother, on the other side, she simply smiled and told my sister to guide me through the process. Well, as the years passed by, I remember that I would constantly have a rash on my pelvic region. It didn't matter the brand of the disposable pad, the size, or even the frequency that I would change it. And like every other ordinary person, I decided to try out several products, like Vaseline, coconut oil, and diaper creams, but none of those would solve my problem. They would actually ease it for a while, but there it was, month after month. And after so many years of being stubborn, trying to self-medicate, and almost becoming skinless, I decided to go to a dermatologist. And when I got there, she said, "Why don't you try out clog pads?" The first thought that barged into my mind was, that is disgusting. Why would I ever use something that would get blood stained and I would have to wash it myself? No way that I would let that happen. So I decided to continue with my research. And out of the blues, magic words flashed onto my screen, and there it was. Clog pads, they prevent diaper rash. So that time, I decided to take a risk, and I changed my menstrual routine. I adopted the clog pads, and that was a life-changing decision, I can guarantee. Well, I remember that while I was undertaking this research, I came across an intriguing term, which is period poverty. So what is period poverty? Period poverty is defined as the inability that a woman has to afford menstrual products or to have access to basic sanitation while she's under her period. Just imagine, you're bleeding from your genitals. You can't stop the flow. Blood is running down your legs. Your clothes get stained. If you sit down somewhere, it will get stained as well. You can't go out in public. You can't use the public transport. You can't go to work or even to school. Unfortunately, so many girls in both developed and developing countries are going through this situation. And because of this, and also the lack of choice, they opt to use random cloths, rags, cotton wool, newspaper, or any other item that is readily available to their eyes. These practices, combined with bad hygiene conditions, expose them to several infections that can lead to long-term consequences like ectopic pregnancy, infertility, and cervical cancer. Many girls miss around 4 to 5 days of school due to period poverty, which adds up an average of 58 days a year. And due to absenteeism and the shame and the trauma, they end up dropping out of school. When a girl drops out of school, she loses the opportunity of being empowered, and she becomes vulnerable to whatever society offers her. It's a fact that girls even trade sex for just one pack of pads. That cannot be tolerated. Menstruation is natural. It's a normal process. It's physiological. From where I come from, girls are taught to stay away from boys whenever we start our menstruation. And when it says stay away from boys, I mean literally. You can't even sit close to boys. That's what they teach us. They also teach us to change our clothes all the time, to wash ourselves thoroughly, and to always, always, always keep it a secret. There's also a very important event, which are the traditional rites, initiation rites, which symbolizes the transition of a girl to a woman whenever she starts her menstruation. In this ceremony, girls are taught to clean themselves, to use capulana, pieces of capulana, as their absorbent. But there's a disadvantage to this. They leave with the idea that they're ready to be wed. Unfortunately, up to this day, menstruation is still a taboo. It's really hard to speak to girls about menstruation. They usually turn away, ignore you, and pretend they didn't even hear you, or just laugh at the situation. If a girl reacts this way, imagine a boy. I am privileged, and so many of you here are also privileged. But many girls around us are not. Girls cannot choose whether to menstruate or not. It will be there, month after month. It's not a problem. It's not a curse. Do not misinterpret me. On the contrary, it gives us more moments of self-love and of self-care. When I decided to change my menstrual routine and adopt clot pads, I learned how to embrace this process. Unfortunately, in my country, clot pads are associated to poverty, because that means that you won't have to afford or to purchase menstrual products every month. Yes, there is that financial advantage, but there's also a very important emotional factor. I learned how to embrace myself as a woman, as a menstruator, as a person who has a special time of the month. And because of this, I decided to spread this news, and I used a digital platform. I created a page called Ngatiami, where girls are free to share their knowledge and experiences regarding menstruation. I love how diverse our opinions are. Some of us love menstruation, some of us don't. I remember I conducted a survey where I would ask girls whether they would continue or not to menstruate if they have that choice. Some of them said yes, of course. Some of them said no way. But at the end of the day, we created a safe space where we can talk about menstruation. And at the same time, we are providing information to the other girls who don't have access to it. So I count on each and every one of you here to spread this empowering news and to care for girls around you. Because we all need that, both girls and boys. Hello, I'm Denise Matsule. I'm a woman who believes she has a special role in making this world a better place. I'm a change maker, a medical doctor, and a menstrual activist. I took the initiative of making this my cause to promote menstrual education and to make accessible menstrual products, reusable menstrual products to girls in my country. Like I asked in the beginning, when is it the right time to talk about this? Thank you.
After 3 great talks, it's time for us to take a short break. We've prepared a little surprise for all of you, a guest artist by the name of Paolo Pacanlugan that's come to delight us with a rendition of Christian songs in his amazing guitar. We recommend you replenish liquids, get up and stretch a bit, lean back and reflect on what you've learned, or whatever other activity you use to unwind and restore energy. There are 3 additional talks after the break, and believe me, you'll want to be able to pay your full attention. Enjoy.
Hey TEDx. Hey TEDx, my name is Paolo. I'm from Milton, Canada, and I'm really excited to be with you today. I know you have some awesome presentations ahead, and I am a really big fan from YouTube or the app. I've watched, I can't tell you how many videos I've watched of all sorts of presentations from all sorts of people from all over the world. So I'm really excited to be with you today, and as we wait for those presentations, please sit back and relax for some songs. I say songs because one of the things that I like to do with music when I make music in my spare time is to put a bunch of songs together into one giant run-on sentence. So please sit back and relax and join me, if you know the lyrics, in a Thugs Mansion mashup. And also, it's November, which means like 2 months ago, there would have been decorations and Christmas music all over the streets in my home country for the Philippines. So as a Christmas person, big Christmas person, I am also going to share with you some Christmas music. And I hope that you have a good time. If you are looking forward to the holidays, if you are looking forward to the new year, please join in if you know the lyrics. I wish you a great day. I wish you a great rest of the year and the year to come. So sit back, relax, and let's rock out. Every corner, every city, there's a place where life's a little busy, little Hennessy, lay back and cool every hour, cause it's all good. We won't stress from the world outside, every wrong done will be alright. Nothing but peace, love, street passion, every ghetto needs a thug mansion. Smile with the rising sun, 3 little birds, each by my doorstep, singing sweet songs of melodies pure and true, singing, this is my message to you, singing, don't worry about a thing, cause every little thing is gonna be alright, singing, don't worry about a thing, every little thing is gonna be alright. It could be love, we could be homies. Once you get to know me, I could be a one and only. I can make you unlonely. We can take it slowly, and we can keep it low key. I could be a one and only. I can make you when the table's set for two. And there's nobody with you, seeing movies by yourself. It could be a someone else if you're spending time alone, and it's just you and your phone, taking pictures of yourself, thinking maybe I can help. On my way to see my friends who lived a couple blocks away from me, how as I walk through the subway, must have been about 3:15. In front of me stood a beautiful honey with a beautiful body. She asked me for the time, instead of cost her name, said she's a number and a date with me tomorrow at night. Did she decline? No. Did she mind? I don't think so. Was it for real? Damn sure. What was the deal? A pretty girl is 24, so was she keen? She couldn't wait. Cinnamon Queen, let me update. What did she say? She said she loved to rendezvous. She asked me what we were gonna do. So style and bottle more for to Monday. Took her for a drink on Tuesday. We were making love on Wednesday. On Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we chillin' on Sunday. The Monday, took her for a drink on Tuesday. We were making love by Wednesday. On Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we chill on Sunday.
Greeting cards have all been sent. The Christmas rush is through. But I still have one wish to a special one for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Merry Christmas, darling. We're apart, that's true, but I can dream, and in my dream I'm Christmasing with you. Holidays are joyful, there's always something new, but every day's a holiday when I'm near to you. Oh, the lights on my tree, I wish you could see, I wish it every day. Logs on the fire fill me with desire to see you and to say that I wish you Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, darling. Happy New Year to you. Oh, I've just one wish on this Christmas Eve. On this Christmas Eve, I wish I were with you. Oh, logs on the fire fill me with desire to see you and to say that I wish you Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, darling. Happy New Year to you. Oh, just one wish on this Christmas Eve. On this Christmas Eve, I wish I were with you. I wish I were with you. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, darling.
Our next amazing speaker is Evelyne Brink, who works with elite performers and star entrepreneurs to amplify their success and the depth of the pleasure they draw from it. She's a pioneer in the movement of liberated modern business beyond the social good girl conditioning and its work hard to deserve mythology. A widely expressive coach, author, and supermom of 2 children born with medical challenges, she uses the challenges of life as a nurse, carer, single parent, business owner, to find more aliveness, expression, and magic. She has also been featured on TV and media as Europe's #1 Madonna impersonator, was signed to Sony Music, and traveled the world with one-woman shows as well as mimicking the Queen of Pop. Evelyne was challenged to lead us into looking behind the scenes of performance and what it takes to thrive in the spotlight. She leads us in answering questions such as, how much of yourself are you willing to share? Is being on hard work? How do we show up fully, and what do we do with the vulnerability of it all? Enjoy our talk.
This talk is recorded at bonfire night, so there might be firework sounds in the backgrounds. Bear with us and enjoy. By show of hands, who here loves the limelight? And who likes to hide from the spotlight? Now, most people think that hiding from the spotlight means that you're not living up your full potential. That they admire those who are confident on stage, on TV, living it up, having it all. But why do my clients confide in me that despite being in the limelight a lot, they often don't quite feel like themselves? Most people think that hiding takes place in those quiet, dark corners of life. But do you know another great place to hide? The spotlight. Because having all eyes on you doesn't mean that you're being seen. And it doesn't mean that you're actually showing up fully. So today we will explore why the masks that business leaders and celebrities wear leave them feeling exhausted. And what it takes to express more fully and enjoy it. I love being in the spotlight, but that doesn't mean that I haven't been hiding. You can do both. In fact, that's what I did. I became the #1 tribute to the Queen of Pop as seen on TV. So I traveled the world singing and dancing, impersonating Madonna. Music makes the people come together, yeah. And I do that on big stages, not in small framings with cameras. Egypt, Mexico, Lebanon, Portugal, Norway, France, Honduras, Germany. I put on my cones and ta-da! We are living in the material world! And then I'd take them off and back to normal I went, coaching my clients, cooking dinners. Well, actually, I became so famous as Madonna that even the ticket clerk at London Bridge Station recognized me off the telly after I was on BBC One with Graham Norton in 2008. Yes, how did I leave my house undisturbed in those turbulent times? Easily, actually, because he was the only one who recognized me. Now, playing the role of Madonna was a fantastic way not to have to really be myself, but to live it up in the spotlight without the fear of being too much. See, if they don't like me, it's not really me, it's Madonna. Madonna takes the hit. She really does pave the way to be unapologetic. Thanks, Madge. I was hiding in the role of Madonna until one day I got tired of pretending to be someone I am clearly not. And then I did something that felt really daring to me. I allowed myself to be me. I let Evelyne bring out her full stage hog superstar in the guise of Madonna. Ha! Let's see if they complain. I know people pay to see a Madonna tribute, not Evelyne in a Madonna costume, but... Now, the funny thing was that after that show, people said, "Oh my gosh, you are so like her." Who knew this wasn't an either-or situation? I can't be me because I have to be Madonna. Well, apparently I can. Where do you feel that you're stuck in a role, but actually you could fill it with your own heart and soul? You can hide behind a mask, or you can use it to liberate parts of yourself that usually lie dormant. I want to see a world in which we aren't constantly left to feel not good enough and lesser than. I want to see a world in which we can enjoy our growth rather than running away from our fears. And at this point, thanks to Brené Brown's work on shame and for making vulnerability more mainstream, it really helps. The models of exploitative growth that our economy runs on are becoming more questionable. Yes. Now, I'm going to say that our mental models also need upgrading. I want to see more role models of mentally sustainable success. I want to see more authentically expressed humans leading the way. I want to see a world in which thriving humans, and dare I say, especially women, are a part of the corporate agenda. So let's find out how to be more you when everyone is watching, because that's where it all starts. The fears that people face are varied, and here are a few. Fear of failure, fear of humiliation, fear of feeling stupid, fear of being judged. I know why I've been scared to show myself fully. It's really vulnerable. I have this big zest for life and sharing myself, yes. And I've used this energy in theatre and songwriting, comedy, one-woman shows, speaking, writing, coaching. But from early on, I experienced such contrasting responses to myself, which make it very confusing to get it right. It's been anything from, you're going to be such a star, to, seriously, Evelyne, you're too much. From, you are an angel, to, you're a selfish anus. And I like to please. I don't like to be seen in an unfavorable way. You must love me. Now, having to people please and be fully you at the same time is really tricky. Turns out that codependence and confidence can be a common combo, which makes them no less counterproductive. That was a lot of C words. I am so sorry. Not sorry. So sorry. Do you still like me? So here are a few ways that people hide in the spotlight. Number 1, disassociation. It's when you're not being present. To feel disassociated from the moment. I mean, that happens when we're nervous, for example. It's like you watch yourself from above. If you ever fancy an out-of-body experience, put yourself on a stage unprepared. Or you're checking out. Remember the flight attendant safety training? Ladies and gentlemen, in case of an emergency, there are 6 emergency exits. 2 at the front, 2 at the middle, and 2 at the rear of the aircraft. Please look carefully as your nearest exit may be behind you. But mentally checking out happens happens everywhere. Even in seasoned professionals from the entertainment industry. We can blame it on repetition or the need to get it right. We're just going through the motions. And then your moment in the light is just another performance, but your heart and soul aren't in it. And everyone is missing out. Shrinking. If you don't want to take up too much space, God forbid, you might appear selfish or self-indulgent. So you make yourself smaller. And we see that in body language or behavior, like women trying to make themselves really cute. We play ourselves down. So we shrink vocally, like we don't show our voice fully, which is ridiculous on camera and stage, really, because there is plenty of space for you, well, except for the framing. But we really want to see you and feel you and hear you. But as they say in Southeast London, it's so mental, innit? It's mental. The most socially acceptable way to hide in the spotlight is by getting hooked in roles. Identifying with the roles of CEO, consultant, the sassy diva, can give us a sense of confidence, clarity, and purpose. And for celebrities, this phenomenon becomes amplified. As Jib Fowles, professor of media studies, author of Starstruck, reports from his research, this stage persona, often fraught by stereotypes, is what is perceived by the media and the audience, and which can cause a person to give up on their individuality. But when we over-identify with a role, we miss out on the fuller spectrum of you. So, just because you're visible doesn't mean you're truly seen. In fact, it's a great way not to be seen at all. Now, we see this not just in celebrities, but leaders from all walks of life. In the entrepreneurial space, parents, mothers, oh my God, there wasn't much left of me at some point. And that has consequences for our well-being and vitality over time. The bigger the gap between your persona and your personal complex you, the more challenging it can become to access a healthy sense of self. I call this literally self-sacrifice. I really hope that after this talk, you will find yourself daring to show up more fully and enjoy yourself in the process. The problem we must face in our culture is the obsession with confidence, the obsession with achievement, the obsession with overt strength. And there's often a fixation on the so-called positive and very little acknowledgement for the so-called negative. And that negates the reality of being human. Harvard psychologist Susan David speaks about this so eloquently in her work about emotional agility. Her research shows that 1/3 of us judge ourselves for having bad emotions. So she says normal, natural emotions are now seen as good and bad. And positive has become the new form of moral correctness. And that leads to the tyranny of positivity. Yes! Where was she when I was growing up? Growing up herself. I've been trying for years to overcome my negativity, feeling embarrassed or angry. Ooh, don't feel angry. Feeling embarrassed about not being as successful as I think I should, or my hopelessness, or low vibes. I shouldn't have low vibes. I do yoga. I mean, shouldn't the green juice purify my personal toxicity? Come on! But when we discover that emotions and personality traits move through a spectrum, they're not rigid fixations. They move through the spectrums, then life becomes so much easier, especially in the limelight. We also tend to make really questionable judgments on what strength and confidence or success even are. Let's look at strength. Does it mean to plow through a challenge or to avoid emotions in the way, to just stay focused on the results? I learned about inner strength in hospital. When my son was born, he was taken for major surgery. And then afterwards, the surgeon sat us down in the quiet room, looking at the floor, saying, "We are sorry, we don't think he's going to make it." After 3 days of mourning, a specialist suggested that we could try him on intravenous nutrition to sustain his life, if we were willing to take on the care. He's lost all his small intestine. "But one of you will never work again," he said, looking at me. And I heard the phrase "be strong" used an awful lot in those times. And I noticed how this concept of traditional strength doesn't work. Be strong for your child. Don't break down. Don't cry. Don't stop. But I felt like that was missing the point of connection. Strength to me is not about creating results over your feelings. It's about being able to see the reality, no matter how hard it is, and then to keep a bigger vision. So when I was free to cry at my son's cot and say, I love you and I'm afraid to let you go, I could feel myself weirdly alive and connected. Personal drama sees the funeral, fantasy sees the applause for the first school performance. And strength is to know that and to come back to the hospital and be right there, bringing the love. And it works like that on stage and other high-pressure situations too. To become aware of what's actually going on and then be accepting of that allows you freedom. Now, the last piece I'd like to speak to today to help you be more fully you when everyone's watching is your driving force. Are you constantly asking yourself to do more, go further, harder, faster, smarter? Well, I'd like to introduce you to a more sustainable orientation because the achievement-based models are leaving us exhausted and dry most of the time. I'd like to share what kept me going when life became really tough. What helped me recover from post-divorce burnout, that happened. What makes it possible to turn up and show up more, whether people are watching or not. It's not pressure. It is pleasure. I spent over a year of my life in hospital with my children. I have seen children cry. I have seen children die. I live an intense life running a mini hospital from home. I access my son's central bloodstream twice a day. There are severe risks involved with that. And when my daughter was born, she had 4 heart defects. When we came out of hospital with her, after a month, I had to administer medications 10 times a day. Some of the meds had to be made up before. And then I was feeding her through an NG tube every 3 hours, day and night, from the milk I expressed from my breasts. Express yourself, you've got to milk 'em. Express yourself, hey, hey. Which, by the way, just to show off, I did when my son was in hospital too, because he couldn't have my milk. So I made it my mission to break the record of milk donation at St. Thomas Hospital in 2012, which was 50 liters. That is a lot of milk. I am a master of self-expression. I donated 60. Yes, thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, so thanks. Anyways, those weren't exactly the times you'd label as happy days. Sitting day in, day out on about 1 square meter, not knowing what's to become of your family and your life isn't easy, I won't lie. It can suck the joy right out of you. Until you find pleasure. And back in those days, it meant savoring the tea with milk. When in crisis, I'll have it with sugar, thanks. looking into my baby's eyes and receiving the beauty of that. The chats, the tears, the royal macaroons that Claire and Tom brought me when things got really tough with my relationship on top of it all. Pleasure is the laugh you share or the song that comes through your mouth, or out of my mouth. Back in those times, it was the theme song from La Boom. Dreams are my reality, the only way of reality. The pleasure orientation is an invitation to focus on the sensation in your body more than the antics of your moment-to-moment thinking. Sensations are neutral. There's no judgment. And we can learn from that. So whatever's going on for you, or not, when it becomes just what it is, and okay, and you connect to the sensations, then you can develop this emotional agility we spoke about earlier, and you will start to enjoy this extraordinary experience of being you. Imagine if you could find pleasure in the intensity of life, or in the ups and the downs and the nothing in between. Wouldn't it be lovely? I couldn't resist. I think I'm making this TEDx talk the musical, and I'm not sorry. It's human nature. Okay. Communication is about transferring information from one mind to another. Expression is to show what you feel, and that creates impact. It transfers what's happening in my heart and soul to yours. It is so quintessentially, gorgeously human. Allowing yourself to be seen is a generous act, as well as a deeply fulfilling one for you. It's daring to feel your humanity, and it feels so alive. It's daring to share it. It's daring to allow others to see you. That vulnerability is key to creating connection. That thing that we crave in our busy, complex, and often quite isolated world. Let's end the culture of chronic insecurity. Let's end this self-sacrifice to so-called success, to create a world with more leaders who model sustainable success through expression. We are invited to show up more fully, more often. And the way we do that is by developing emotional agility, accepting every feeling as valid and purposeful, allowing ourselves to unleash our inner superstar with or without a costume, optional, and seeking the pleasure in doing so. And that's how you can show up more fully as you when everyone is watching. My name is Evelyne Brink. Thank you.
Our next amazing speaker is Raquel Santos, a Portuguese entrepreneur passionate about the startup world and the value of community. Raquel was challenged to share her experience and lessons learned as an entrepreneur with the single purpose of hopefully inspiring and supporting more first-time founders and aspiring entrepreneurs. Enjoy your talk.
Ever since I was a kid that I've loved coming up with business ideas, probably for fun. But as I grew up, I became more and more passionate about solving problems, finding solutions, and about startups in general. So naturally, I've always loved reading and hearing about the stories of big unicorns like Uber, Airbnb. And success is great and all, but as you know, while those companies are out there succeeding, there are many, many others failing. And failure is not always that easily talked about. Many projects and startups are literally dying right now, and they just quietly fall off the radar. So today, I'm here to share with you my journey as a co-founder at Mango Up, why we failed, and what lessons I've learned. I've had several ideas and projects in the past, but I never really went beyond ideation and research. And that was until Mango Up. I'd say that the first factor that enabled me to go beyond this time was the people. That's because I never met anyone passionate about startups and entrepreneurship until I started my master's degree. And it was surprising to me that turns out there's so many people out there like me, which is pretty silly, I know. Well, I was really lucky to have met Nicola and Marie. In our case, it was by chance, but it worked out pretty well, and we very quickly went from strangers to co-founders. And that being said, this talk today is designed for you to surround yourself with people with similar interests or aspirations and even different backgrounds, in case you haven't already. Start building your network because this will open new doors and bring you new opportunities. And the people you're meeting, well, they might just become your co-founder or mentor, investor in the future. So now the question is, how can we build that network? Well, there's no easy answer for that, but you've got to put yourself out there. What I mean is, by creating your own project or joining an existing one, you're automatically putting yourself in new environments, joining new communities, and meeting new people. But when you go to an event, don't just watch. Ask questions, interact. And when you see someone interesting at that event or even on LinkedIn, don't be afraid of reaching out for a coffee or a video chat. The first one might be a bit awkward, but the next time you'll be way better at introducing yourself already. And you'll also be better at listening and also at getting value out of the conversation. So, why would you reach out to random people? Well, maybe they have a career you admire and you'd like to learn from their journey. Or maybe you're looking for feedback on your product and their experience can be insightful. And of course, they could even become a potential client. Or maybe you see synergies for you to collaborate somehow. My point is that having a why for your conversation, well, it makes the person more willing to accept and it also makes it more meaningful. But anyways, what was our startup after all? Well, it depended on the week. That's right. In a matter of months, we pivoted 1,000,000 times. But the one thing that always stayed the same was our mission. As you can imagine, there were a lot of tough moments and a lot of questioning. Sometimes we didn't know what we were doing, we didn't know what our product was anymore, or if it was even worth it to keep going. We got lost countless times, but we always came back to the mission, our why, the reason we started Mango Up in the first place. And you might have heard of the what, how, why circle. What you do, your product, and how you do it, the process may change. But why you do it, your purpose, is what differentiates you. It's what makes you, you. So in the end, you might pivot a few times and change products in the meantime, but the identity of your project will stay the same as you will still be driven by the same mission. But don't get me wrong, defining your why is obviously not the key to success or to making it happen. But if your mission is not well defined and if you're not well aligned with your co-founders on at least your mission, it will be much harder to keep a focus. So take a moment to reflect on what drives you to wake up and get out of bed every day, and then take the time to discuss it with your team members and see if you agree. And bonus tip, this exercise is not only great to make sure you're in sync with your team, but also to agree on the exact words, the right mission statement that then you can use on your website, pitch deck, and just branding in general. And this also applies for your personal why and your personal brand, of course. But as I was saying, we pivoted 1,000,000 times, and I wasn't joking. We tried different products and business models, and we always followed the advice that we were given. Test. And testing is a constant in any company. No matter if you're launching your first product, adding a feature to your current product, or even changing target group, you need to test. And to me, it's not just about testing. It's about testing all the way. During your project, you might get impatient, wishing or even praying for fast results, but you need to allow yourself to validate a hypothesis completely. When building our project, we were always in a rush. We had the opportunity of creating many different things, and I'm really proud of those achievements. But I also know that we moved from one idea to the next as soon as we felt that results weren't coming in fast enough. When building a startup, it's crucial to be agile, to be willing to change, and to know when something is not working. In fact, it's extremely unlikely for a startup to stick to its initial concept. However, in our case, we perhaps pivoted too soon and too often. And this brings me to my next lesson learned. Deciding whether a project is going well or not requires more than gut feeling. If you don't set any goals in the first place, the project will never under or overperform, but you'll eventually be sailing aimlessly. Your objectives should be setting the direction you want to move towards. And to measure your progress, the right metrics are a must. And as you may know, metrics, usually called key performance indicators or KPIs, are ways of measuring performance in a quantifiable way. To summarize, numbers. That's what we need. So depending on your stage, objectives, and your type of product, your KPIs will vary. Of course, the number of sales is an obvious one. The more you sell, the better. But there are so many more, and it's also not always about revenue. It could be about cost efficiency. You want to acquire the biggest amount of clients with the lowest amount of money. Or it could even be about customer satisfaction. From 0 to 10, how much would they recommend your product? It could be about community engagement, brand awareness, the list goes on. And even if you're not yet ready to sell, you should use metrics to measure, for instance, the usage of your product or even to analyze customer interviews. Well, during our project, we always knew metrics were important, but I personally struggled to regularly track them, analyze them, and most importantly, to make decisions based on those results. So, what would I have done differently? Well, I would start by defining our monthly objectives. This would help us pick our most important KPIs, maybe 3 to 5, and then I would build a routine to check on them every week. As an early stage startup, it's normal that our direction and goals change sometimes, but by building a habit of tracking what's going on and by looking at our objectives every week, it will help us maintain a focus. Your time is precious, and most of your actions and daily tasks should fall under your objectives to make sure you don't get lost and to make sure you're sailing towards success, whatever that may be for you. But I'll have to be honest, even if you do that, it won't always be easy to keep a focus. In fact, I'd even say it was by far our biggest challenge. When working on your startup, you should talk to as many people as possible. These people will probably be friends and family, who will be biased, by the way. Then it will be potential customers, mentors, and maybe investors if you're looking to fundraise. Well, and everyone will have their own opinion, their own ideas, but they won't always match each other. So in our case, in order to have some financial stability, we thought fundraising would be quicker than reaching profitability. But in the end, fundraising was so time-consuming, we barely had time to improve our product and our results. We created and practiced our pitch. We contacted hundreds of investors, did loads of research, only to hear from them that we didn't have enough traction. And of course, this won't be the case for everyone, but we learned that traction or real proof that people are willing to pay for a product makes it much easier for investors to be willing to take the risk. But because we really needed that investment to keep going, to build a proper product and to get that actual traction, we kept trying. This meant that we ended up molding our concept to please the investors. But each one of them had a different opinion and different preferences. So instead of pleasing them, we got lost in the process by trying to be everything everyone wanted. We tried having several business models, several targets, several products, and investors just got more confused with that, and so did we. My point is, at the end of the day, getting investment isn't traction nor the definition of success. Of course, you should still listen to investors, but you've got to make sure that whatever they tell you or advise you is aligned with your why and your core values. The ultimate voice you should listen to is the one of your customers or target group. That being said, when you're so early stage, don't be afraid of focusing on a niche and on really serving them well. This will even make you stand out more. You'll be more relatable to your customers, you'll have an easier time keeping your focus and serving them, and investors you will understand more easily your value. But timing isn't always right. In fact, timing is one of the main reasons startups fail. Maybe we didn't have enough time to prove our concept. Maybe we were too inexperienced or we didn't have the right skills. Maybe we burned out too quickly, or maybe it was all a big mix of all of these reasons. Truth is, in April 2021, we made the decision of quitting our project and moving to new jobs. And let me tell you, it was just like a breakup. After working 10 hours a day and giving our all to a project that we were so passionate about, one can only expect for it to hurt so much. But if there's one takeaway you should remember from this talk today, is that every failure of yours is another badge you're collecting. And every time you fail, you're closer to achieving your goals. You are literally paving your way to success, no matter how cheesy that may sound. And the next time you start a business or a project, you won't be making the same mistakes. But I cannot sugarcoat it. The months right before and after quitting were extremely difficult. And there were many times where I thought to myself that all my work had been for nothing. Yeah, there were many times where everything got blurry and I felt like I had gone back to zero. But I'm not my project and my project is not my worth. I learned so much and I grew as a person in ways I probably haven't even noticed yet. So listen, I'm not telling you to fail and move on the next day. Hell, no one should expect that. I'm telling you to put yourself out there, fail, but also allow yourself to mourn, to draw conclusions and lessons from it. And who knows? 1 year from now, it might be your turn to be right here sharing your stories and failures with us. And we'll all be so extremely proud of you. Thank you.
Our last amazing speaker for the day is Ilza Kambata, a 26-year-old Mozambican medical doctor, dreamer, and changemaker, passionate about emergency care, general surgery, and how the human mind works. After seeing much hardship during her time in medical school, especially when it came to access to emergency medical care, Ilza decided to dedicate her life to changing that reality. Ilza's talk is a story of self-discovery that led to the birth of a changemaker, a woman from Maputo, Mozambique, who refused to stick to the status quo and decided to take charge of her own life. Enjoy her talk.
Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine yourself driving home late at night for a much-deserved night of rest. You're tired. You're trying to focus on the road, but all you can think about is a hot shower and your warm, cozy bed. Your eyes are heavy. You close them for what seems like a split second, and when you open them, Your car is already off the road, and before you can do anything, you already crash it against a tree. Time passes, you slowly regain consciousness. Your head is pounding. There's blood all around. You're trying to move your right leg, but you can't. It hurts. You think it might be broken. You look around, and there's no one in sight. You scream for help, but all you can hear is the sound of your own voice accompanied by echo. So you decide to look around in your car, and you find your cell phone. It survived the crash intact. So, what do? You're probably thinking about calling an emergency number for assistance, right? Well, where I'm from, we don't have that luxury. You can open your eyes now. Hi, I am Ilza Varinia. I am a girl mover and an MD, and I've always lived my life doing what others expected of me. External validation was always important, so I basically just put everybody's needs above my own. I like to compare my life to the book Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, because I started it with a naive view of the world, and my dream of becoming a doctor was coming to fruition. I remember feeling in cloud nine when I got into medical school. This dream came to life in my childhood, although my brother took it upon himself to squash it, because he proceeded to remind me that I am very squeamish and that I don't really like seeing ugly things. So he asked me if I was going to be able to see sick and wounded people every day working in a hospital. I confessed that I agreed with him. I didn't really like seeing ugly things, so I decided to pursue another career path. So I went from wanting to be a doctor to wanting to be a singer, a fashion designer, a ballerina, an astronaut, an architect. But none of those resonated with me. I didn't see myself doing those things for the rest of my life. In contrast, health sciences just fascinated me. I always wanted to know how the human mind and body worked. I was always curious how our cells could function in perfect harmony, how our thoughts were originated. So I decided to risk it and apply for medical school. I was scared that my brother could be right, but I decided that I was going to fix the problem when I got there. So I got in, yay, and the first 2 years went fairly well. Fast forward to my third year of college. It's the year where the internship starts. So it was going to be the first time that I came into contact with a patient, and I was very, very excited. I must confess, I pictured something along the lines of Grey's Anatomy, with doctors walking around in scrubs and ambulances arriving and a whole trauma team running around to stabilize the patient. But that's not what happened. On my first day going to the hospital, I was mind blown, and not in a good way. The environment was dark and somber, and the rooms were full, and there were patients in mattresses on the floor, and no working conditions at all, and I was shocked. I literally did not know what to do. But I kept going, because for me, quitting was not an option. So I found myself in the middle of a full-blown identity crisis, just like Alice when she ran into the caterpillar. And I was questioning myself, questioning who I was, and what was my purpose? What did I want to do with the rest of my life? Mozambique is a beautiful and rich country in resources. But in contrast, we are highly affected by poverty. And we have basic, limited, insufficient infrastructures in our public health system. That is even made worse in rural areas, where patients are forced to walk over an hour just to reach a health facility. To give you an idea, around 30% of the population has no access to healthcare, and 50% has access to what we would call acceptable healthcare, which by our standards is not really saying much. To make it all worse, traffic accidents are a major health issue in Mozambique. In 2020 alone, we had over 1,000 accidents with over 2,000 victims. Of those victims, around 40% died and 26.6% were gravely injured. During my internship, I noticed a strange phenomenon. Basically, people arrived in the ER by their own means of transportation. They only came by ambulance when they were transported from another healthcare facility. And this originated a strange phenomenon that occurred in the hospital, which was that the hospitals were full when public health transportation was working, but it was empty when it was not. So one day I decided to ask one of the doctors why that happened, and basically they explained that Mozambique has no emergency medical system. Again, I was shocked and I confessed that I didn't really believe him. So I decided to test it out and I called the emergency numbers available at the time. On my first try, nobody picked up. Yes, on my first try, nobody picked up. Second try, the number was disconnected. So if I had been a person in need of actual emergency care, right now I would be dead. So basically, I've had to witness day in and day out cases in which people's patients' outcomes could have been better had help gotten to them sooner. Because we don't have an EMS system, people can't get access to emergency care in useful time. That makes them rely on family or friends or neighbors or even strangers with means of transportation to get them to the hospital. Also, because of this, many trauma victims end up dying. They don't reach the hospital in time because there's no ambulance to come and secure them. And all of this contributes to the alarming statistics that I mentioned earlier. So all of this just, again, blew my mind, and not in a good way. This gave way to a feeling of disappointment and frustration. And I felt lost. I again found myself in Alice's shoes as she was talking to the Cheshire Cat. I kept having this internal dialogue. Like, where do you go from here? And the truth is, I didn't know. So I basically just told myself, just go anywhere. You know, whatever path you take is fine, as long as you get somewhere. After I graduated college, I decided that I couldn't live like that anymore, and I was finally going to take action. I was finally going to do something to, at the very least, mitigate the situation. So I decided that I was going to design and implement an emergency medical system in Mozambique. I know that it's a daunting and ambitious dream, but this year I learned two things. The first is that if my dreams don't scare me, they are not big enough. The second thing I learned this year is that there is no dream that is too big that can't be turned into a reality. So, again, hi, I am Ilza Varinia. I am a girl mover and I'm an MD. And I am a fierce believer that as humans, we're all different, yet we're equal. And we all have the same rights. So as a human, I'm going to work tirelessly to make sure that health, a basic human right, is available to everyone who needs it. Thank you very much.
After another 3 great talks, it's time for us to take another short break. After this break, we'll have a few rounds of Q&A with the speakers. After another 3 great talks, it's time for us to take another short break. After this break, we'll have a few rounds of Q&A with the speakers who were kind enough to agree to be here with us live today. See you all at 6:20.